think that.
I apologize. Yes, it was. Sorry, folks.
Okay. Well, I can keep going.
Thank you.
Okay. The thrift shop is a really crucial part of our annual financial picture. During 2022, that alone provided about 25% of our total income. It's an invaluable service to Roxbury. Since I've been there for the last couple of years, we've seen so many families come and go. We had somebody come in just yesterday, and say that that's how she clothed her family. She had 6 children. That's how she clothed her family, was through the thrift shop. We have sent clothing over to the school when they need it. We've had teachers come over looking for snowsuits because they have kids come to school unprepared. We have them and we just give them to them. We don't want money for it, but we're there to serve the people of the community. And mainly because it is so far. Some people just can't get to Oneonta or to Kingston to buy clothes. We've recently been awarded 2 grants from the Community Foundation, South Central New York. One was primarily to update a dangerous electrical situation, and it was dangerous. Every day I look behind me, I went, oh boy. And the latest one, which just took place today, is we got a grant to get 6 brand new Dell all-in-one computers, 4 for the public and 2 for the circulation desk. Without this additional assistance or for operating expenses, heating oil, utilities, salaries, snow plowing, the new technology and our safer electrics are just not going to keep our doors open. We really, really appreciate the help we do get from the town. We are all the town of Roxbury, the different places I mentioned. And I said to my husband tonight, what's so unusual about the library is where everybody comes together. Weekend residents, visitors to town from the motel, Airbnb people love our place because they love to connect. We've got townspeople, we've got, just a variety of people. It is the place in town where people come together, and we love to keep it that way. So that's why we are asking you to reconsider the amount that you're offering for the library this year. And I thank you so much for letting me speak tonight.
Did you still want to speak?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Mary Jean just gave a very good overview of the library and our expenses and our income. The board has been given a copy of the appeal letter, which shows you what we get and what we spent in 2022 for the final figures. I also handed Alan a more detailed list of our expenditures and our income for 2022, and we came in short by over $3,000. And if we had not had a generous donation, we would not have been able to meet our payroll and do other things that we had thought we could do. The library continues to want to grow, and what Mary Jean didn't say, we get between 30 and 60 visitors in the library every day. And I think it's probably the most frequented, except maybe for the watershed place in town. And so we get to see a lot of people, we get to meet a lot of people, and it really plays a very important role in the structure of the town and what we can do to help everybody there as a resident. And I think it's just important to the town of Roxbury that the library continue to serve its population. And there are lots of expenditures that are coming up. We need to get our place ADA compliant. We applied for a grant, but we haven't gotten it yet, so we may not, who knows what the situation on that is. We also need to do some structural work. The gutters are broken, the windows are leaking, the driveway has to be repaved or fixed at least. There are so many things. And I personally would love to keep the library open longer, especially on Saturdays, but we can't do that unless we can pay the salaries of our workers who don't make a huge amount of money, but we need to pay them when they're in the library. And I think it would be a great benefit because everybody who visits on Saturday comes to the library. If it's raining, they come there. If it's nice, they come there. Gives them something to do. They take out books, they look at the thrift store, and they just get to know more about Roxbury. So I would like to commend the board for giving us for allocating the amount of money that you did, but I think we really could use a little bit more. And I know you have this budget item from the pandemic still left over, even if you can't change the other budget that you have approved, the preliminary budget. And since we got the new computers, we would love to get some new chairs that aren't falling apart and desks that the computers could sit on. And if the board gave us a few $1,000s more, we would be able to buy that furniture. So thank you.
Okay, looks like the next two that said that they wanted to speak was Judith.
I think that would be a wonderful use of pandemic money.
Okay. I will remind you that money from the ARPA funding cannot be used for things like budget and salary. It has to be used, correct me if I'm wrong, Beth, for equipment and things like that. So
Which is
Right.
tables and chairs and desks.
it can't become a budget item for
Right.
any particular situation that's not legal.
Right.
So if we were to use those funds, it would have to be for some kind of an equipment purchase or something like that, or possibly repairs or something.
Perfect.
But that's the only thing we can really use that for. That being said, and Robin, you had said you would like to speak?
Oh, I do.
Okay,
I would like to. Thank you. I wasn't planning to do this, but I also would urge you to spend more money on the library, very important part of our community. So thank you, ladies. I did want to ask a couple of questions about the budget, though, going back to the budget that you're going to vote on tonight, or I assume you are. And thank you for having this session.
Robin, can I excuse you for just
Sure,
a minute?
sure.
Before Robin, she's gonna get off on a different topic, is there anybody else that would like to discuss the library while you're here? I know a bunch of you are here for support for the library.
Oh, please.
Just so we don't break things up, it's easier if there's anybody else who'd like to comment. I'm glad to entertain that first. Hey, you're a number, back to Robin.
Sorry. We had an information session about the budget. Afterwards I went back to look at numbers and all that, and I was looking to find out what the debt of the town is, whether it's a bond or whatever. And it's very difficult to tell from the budget. So my question is not so specifically about that, but the form of the budget. Is this mandated for some reason, the way it's put together? Or,
The final is, this is a working copy.
Okay.
When we send the final to the county, it's very specific.
right, but my point is this the form that like all towns
Yeah.
must use?
Similar, yes.
Okay, so then I was wondering if there is some way to have a sort of, I know there's a summary sheet on the front, but it doesn't really get to the heart of it. And I feel like everybody in town should have the ability to look at the budget and know, you know, what we're getting in taxes, what we have to spend, the difference that we have to make up, those kinds of really basic things. It's very difficult to understand it from this budget. So is there some way that we can do that next year, I guess, for a way for people to easily understand? I don't think you should have to be an accountant to be able to read it. So it's a suggestion and a hope. And do we know what the total debt the town has taken on? Do we know what that number is?
The total that remains, or the total in here that we're paying.
I guess I don't even understand the difference.
Total debt service. You have to add up the line.
The total debt service is based on payments that we've made. Some of those are in the last year or two of payment. But the payments are based on the original principal amount, so it's kind of hard to say what our total debt is. I guess the better question is, what's our total principal outstanding?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that's, I think, what, I
Okay,
want to know is what the principal understanding is.
okay. Do you know what that number is?
Not off the top of my head, Diane has a 3-ring binder that we use to go through, so we'd have to go in and add it up. I have not done that.
Okay. So then I guess my next question is just,
Because I don't know what the debt is. I just added the bond and it was 287,562, but I know it's more than that, right?
Yeah, that's just what we have to pay this year.
Right, okay. All right, good explanation. So I was also wondering, in terms of other assets that the town has, is there anything that we could sell to offset those expenses and maybe add to the library budget or other things that the town would like to do? So in other words, the old town hall, has that been assessed? Do you know how much that is worth?
I don't know, a recent assessment on it, no.
Okay, so I mean.
We also have no intention of selling it right now. As far as I understand from the board, unless something has changed.
Okay, but it would help me as a resident to know what our debt is, what we're actually carrying, and how we are paying for this, and then how we as a town can decide the best way to spend some of this money. And I won't go on, but thank you.
The only thing I will say about the value of the buildings, stuff, you probably carry an assessed value.
Well, it's right there in the book, Alan, sure.
Yeah, there's an assessed value that can be looked up that shows whatever town properties are, we still have to do a full assessment on them. And that gives you a pretty good idea, since we used to be 100%, but we're down some on our actual assessed valuation, but it's very, very straightforward as far as what the properties are worth based on that.
If you want to help anybody.
So Stephanie can answer that for you. I won't go into that tonight. But okay, those were all I had on the list to speak for the budget. Is there anybody else that has any comments or questions concerning our budget for 2024 this year? Hearing none, I will close the budget hearing at 6:08, I guess it is, according to that clock. And we will move into the public hearing for our local law for the tax levy override. Which, for people that don't understand, this is a law, whenever the budget is to go over a certain percentage as set by the state, you do have to pass a local law to allow us to do that. And we do this every year in the event the budget ends up going over that amount. So this public hearing is strictly for that local law. There should be a copy of that there if anybody's interested.
You want that, chief?
If anybody has, I don't.
Signing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, with that being said, I will open the public hearing for the tax levy override at 6:08. 6:07, I'm sorry. Does anybody have any comments or questions concerning the tax override law?
I just have a question. I don't really know anything about this, but do you do this every year, override the tax levy? And what's the?
We don't always override the tax amount, but we're required in the event that we do have to go over the state declared tax levy. We do have to pass a local law to allow us to do that. And we're required to do that every year.
And is there a percentage limit that you can't go over?
2%.
2%.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So it's 2%, and then if you do need to go over, can you go over whatever you want, or is there a max to that?
You can do whatever you want. Obviously, try to do it as less as possible.
Okay.
But yes, there is not a limit as to what you can do for it. It's just, this is a state law that was put in place many years ago, and that's still there, that still requires us to pass this local law. You do have to go and that's happened. In most years, I will say we have not gone over it, even though we've passed the local law. This year may be an exception because of some of our expenses that we've had and some of the increase in costs that we've had, but most years we have not had to do that, so.
What's the implications of increasing it, going over, is that, do we give up some funding or do we get?
At this point, as far as I understand, there are no implications if you go over. It used to be a few years ago that the state had the right to full funding for tax rebates and things like that, but that has not happened, and I understand that it's not on the table anymore. Just because of the major cost increases relating to COVID and all the other things, most towns in the last few years have had to go over the budget.
Good,
Yeah, at least. As we all know, expenses drastically increased for municipalities during the COVID and beyond, so we're doing our best, but it's not easy. Yeah, Mike.
So just to get it straight in my head, right, is if we don't pass it, and an emergency comes up, we're kind of stuck, then you have to take it out of something else in the budget or not do it.
Yes, that's a pretty good way to put it. We actually, as I say, if we want to go over 2%, we have to pass this law. That's a state law.
I'm saying if you don't pass it and something happens, an emergency,
If we
you
go
have
past,
nowhere to get the money, you have to
right,
take it out of
or borrow it
some
or
other
something like
fund.
that.
Or just not do it.
Is the current budget over the 2% now?
I propose now it is, yes.
That implies that there's no emergency funds set aside?
Well, there's always ways if you have emergencies, there's bonding, there's all sorts of other things that we can do for.
So it's not exclusive of the.
No, no, it doesn't have to be. I mean, we can always, if we need to go over for some reason for an emergency. And we do have some funds set aside for things like flood damage and stuff like that to roads and emergency road maintenance that we carry. So, same thing with emergency equipment purchases for the highway, if something breaks or whatever, we have the ability to do that if we need to. Okay, any other questions on the local law for the tax levy? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:12. Next would be our regular meeting. After public hearings are done, we will do our regular meeting. So I'd like to call our regular Roxbury Town Board meeting for November 9th, 2023 to order at 6:11, I guess it is. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we would like to approve the minutes for the regular meeting on October 10th. Does anybody have any questions or comments for those minutes?
Make a motion.
In second. All in favor? Okay, we have a couple of requests to speak. Mike Harrington was not able to be here tonight. He did send everybody a written report, which you've all received. And Henry, you are here. Do you want to say anything concerning Mike's report, or do you see it?
No, I haven't seen
I didn't see it.
it. I'm an operator now.
Henry is no longer Vermont Engineering. He is now LVDB operations. So. Okay,
I have
also-
full faith in Michael.
what's that?
I have full faith in Michael.
There you go. Okay, the other request we had to speak was Roxbury Library Association. I think we pretty much
which
covered
we
that.
did that,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're all set there. All right. Good enough.
Okay.
I need to go down through my list here. All right, the next thing on the agenda would be department reports. Since Henry's here, we're going to start with water and sewer. They've had some changes on operations and management at the sewer plant and the water plants. And I'll let Henry take the floor and explain what's going on, and we can go from there.
All right, thanks, Alan. Had a few wrinkles come up in the business. First of all, you may have heard this, may not, maybe not. But Middletown had kind of a crisis with their water operators. They've since negotiated an agreement with the village of Margaretville to have their water operators operate their two water systems, Parkville and Papisville. But the Arkville system has an arsenic removal plant on the backup well. So they're required to have a 2B operator, 2B license, state DOT, DOA license. They don't have one, so they asked us to provide a 2B operator. We only have one 2B operator, that's Barry Rulon, who has been serving as chief operator for Denver Sewer and Roxbury Sewer. With Kobe Continuous, who you know, working for and with. That changes Barry's workload, so we transferred the chief operator responsibilities to another one of our three operators, David Whitbeck. I'd like to introduce you to David. Hi. David operates the Prattsville wastewater plant, much like Barry operated Boyceville, operates the Boyceville plant. So on top of that wrinkle, we had Barry's assistant in Boyceville left our employee to go work in the city of New York. And so we felt we needed to transfer Kobe down there. As a consequence, Elijah Martin is replacing Kobe in Roxbury Denver Sewer, and he'll be an assistant at Chris Mattice on the water systems. And Chris Mattice is taking over Roxbury Sewer as chief operator, and Elijah will assist him there. I assure you, I have 100% confidence in this group of people. They've worked with me a long time, and they're very proactive and hardworking, knowledgeable operators. So I did want you to meet them. So if you see them around, these are the guys that are supposed to be there, yes. And that's really all I have. Things are going pretty well. We're getting set up to flush some of the air relief valves between Roxbury and Grand Gorge on the fourth main. And getting ready to get a new compressor in the Denver Sewer microfiltration plant, which we may or may not be able to get through the door that's in the building up there. Not what my engineers designed that part of it. Always good to have a door big enough to get everything in and out. But those are things we're working on. We're also concerned with some extraneous flow that's showed up at Denver. We'll be looking for leaks in the collection system. As you probably know, it's budget time for the Roxbury Sewer and Denver Sewer. And we produced a proposed, we call it a draft proposed 2024 budget for both systems. We sent them to you and to your town clerk and your town attorney for review. There was a question about the gallons per person in the residential part of the Roxbury Sewer. That's been resolved. We had it correct. Diane caught two property changes. It changed the number of households from 207 to 209, right? And then the number of mixed use from 44 to 40. And that made some minor changes to the sewer rate chart. But I think they're ready to go in to the city, which they need to do fairly soon to get their approval for end of the year, so we can send the first quarter's bills to.
Just to people that don't understand, our water and sewer plants are both operated by the town, but the a big share of the funding for those operations comes to the city of New York as part of their program. So all of the budgets have to be approved by the city before we can move forward with finalizing our year-end budget. So they always tend to be the last ones to come in and be the ones that drive things, but that's the reason.
We have had preliminary discussions with them about the work we want to do on the pipeline easement access between Ferris Hill Road and Cronk Lane, where we got borrowed Kubota UTV stuff, trying to get to the valves that we want to flush. And the town also got stuff trying to get us out. And
So
finally
we had a loader and everything.
we had to get a bulldozer in to get us out. Not really too good, especially if a leak happens, we have to do repairs. So we have in the budget money in there to put in 3 culverts and improve the drainage in the worst section where we got stuff. Although the whole easement needs some work to make it really accessible. We've always only been able to access it during the driest part of the year. And guess what? This year there wasn't the driest part of the year.
Yeah, we had one of those years for sure.
So any questions?
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Henry?
I can, Henry, just on Denver store, you want me to send in that budget that we have?
I think so.
Like see students in case.
Okay, moving on.
Now you're gonna go back there and you won't be able to hear.
That's the complaint. She really doesn't.
I feel better now, come on.
Don't say I can't hear you now.
I can very well.
Okay, I don't think we have anything from planning board yet. Building and grounds. I'm not sure how much we've got there. Other than we did finally get our light out here, so it stays on by itself now, which makes a big difference. Ed, do you have anything with the civic center? I know you've had a couple of questions, releases and stuff with their rentals.
Yeah, well, as a student, give all school one, and use that as a secondary emergency. This, and
Take care, guys. Bye.
I guess you pretty much getting that.
Oh, yeah, for
Take care.
emergency. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you.
For using it as an emergency shelter for the Grand Gilboa School. I believe we do that right now with BOCES anyway. It's available.
And, I got a call from, Terry, Tweedy, and, they're looking at maybe from the Office of the Aging, bringing in, bingo signs. It's like, exercise and bingo combined. We'd like to do that. It's like a 10-week program at 2 times a week. And they would like possibly do like 10:30 to 11:30 in the cafeteria before lunch. That way, she thought maybe they would get more people interested, and see how that goes. And then there's the Thai Chai tea. They would be kind of interviewing the people that show up for that, I guess, to see if there would be enough interest in having a class for that later on.
You called me, and explained it all to me, I said, no, you gotta call that. Sounds good, but
So, it's a great thing. I think maybe it's something more at this end. You're always saying we don't have anything at this end of the county. They don't have any budget for the legal side yet, but I don't see any real problem with the lights are on, and heat's on. And we'll be at the part of the cafeteria.
Which ultimately do good because our people are there eating, getting ready to eat lunch and get them a little more active too. Yeah, so.
The other, there is like a budget of like 150, but that's if they have enough people interested. Another thing that we should be looking into is the drains on the roof and stuff out there. They ought to have a company come in. For them. And the cornhole league, which I met with the lady, and Rachel, and she's, this is really national type stuff. Like, she, I don't know, she brought another gentleman with them, and they were explaining that his rate, 31st in New York State. And I guess there's international and everything. It's not just a beer league or anything, it's a serious, there's no problems I can see. And they're saying that they would probably need, could donate like $50 a week. And depending on the amount of people they have on any given night, it varies. They usually do teams, but if there's enough after the teams play, they can have individuals play. He's said that he will make the boards and stuff. They will get rubber and stuff to put on the boards so that there's no problem on the floor. They're looking into getting insurance, which I know we have the insurance, but usually we like remove it or whatever.
Yeah, if they have.
Have some, get a copy of it, just to have.
Yeah, just name us as a insured.
So I guess that's what I'm asking, maybe if we get approval for the office of the agent. For the cornhole league and like I said, the roof ought to be drains.
I thought we were on their schedule to do that automatically. Have we heard from them at all, Diane? That roofing company at Albany, Titan Roofing?
I think they wanted us to call them.
Did they? Okay, well, we'll contact them.
But I thought,
Yeah, I thought they had it set up. I thought it when they come, when they were in the area, they let us know and go up there. But yeah, that definitely needs to be done.
it should be, and then you don't have the problems maybe that we've had in the past with that.
And then on roof notes, I did talk with Steve Kammer again today about the roof that we have in the building, the old town hall building. And he said he will get to it as soon as he can. As soon as his lift truck gets back here, he said he will do it.
So remind me again, do it.
He did, and I told him I would. And Anthony's also going to remind him because he mentioned it to me, so. He didn't forget, he said he will get it done eventually.
And usually cornhole people projected stuff. What is that cornhole league projected to start their?
Probably as soon as I get in contact with them.
So do we have to do a resolution to allow them to do that? I don't think we've done that in the past, as have we, for use of the building?
Is there gonna be a fee for it?
I guess it might be a donation, like.
Does anybody have any concerns with any of those uses in the civic center? No? Okay. No. All right, anything else for building and grounds?
Oh, on mine.
There you
What
go.
about the electric downstairs here?
I talked to Mike about that. I looked it over. What it is the water is coming in through the pipe where the service is. And you've gotta take the cover off and get in there and patch it with something and seal it. He says he can fix it, he's done it before. But I looked at it one day when we were right down there, and that's right where it's coming from.
Yeah, the constant down one day.
It's not really affecting anything, because it's not really hitting the wires, it's coming in, just going down the back of the wall and going into the drain, but definitely has to be taken care of, so. He said he would take care of it. Anybody have anything else, buildings wise? Okay, highway, you received a written report from.
Did you want to say something?
No,
I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, just a quick couple of things,
Okay, sorry.
concerning buildings, at the meal site, we had the state, health inspector come by yesterday. You know, he looked at everything, and his only concern was that little freezer room we have back there. He said the block walls need to be painted or sealed. They can't be rough block walls like that. Now, I talked to Delaware Ops, and they said, you know, depending on what you want to do, they could send a crew out there to paint the walls, but they're your walls, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody'd have any problem with that, would you?
No.
Yeah, first that I've heard, all this time, I've never heard that the block wall being painted, but. And I don't know if I mentioned that, we're having a craft fair that we December in the gym, so. No big deal.
Okay. All right. So I said, back to highway, we did get a written report from Bill, who couldn't be here tonight. Is there any comments or questions on that from anybody? No, I haven't. Okay. All right, moving along. Stephanie, what do you have for us?
Oh, okay, great. Before I start about that, back to the library for a second, I didn't realize that y'all did an outreach mailing. And if you ever need lists or anything like that, I'm happy to, start doing that. I learned a lot of lists for the fire departments and other stations, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, everybody probably knows that the server, countywide was compromised.
Steph, can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, sure. The county server was compromised a few weeks ago, and so they're back in business. They brought up departments, one by one. Real property, it was a little bit more difficult, I think, because we, the 19 towns, have a live access. We have a live food really into the mainframe. So that took a little longer to figure out because they changed the method by which we access the mainframe. And of course, we're very interested in that, we the town, because, if they're compromised, are we? So, that was pretty nerve wracking. So we were back in business for a little while. In fact, they brought us back up because of our revaluation project. But there are a lot of features in RPS that still are not working. We can't do letters. I can generate reports, so I can help the library with that. It's a problem. I also did a test run, Alan, a couple of days ago, because I'm locked out again because there's another whatever. And anyway, so I tried to add a photo, and it took about 2.5 minutes to add one photo. Now, back in the day, back in 2012 or 13, the first time around, it was that long. And I would literally, leave here with a box and my little thumb drive and go to Delphi and sit in the basement and, load photos for, 8 hours a day. Not doing that again. That's not going to happen. So whatever is causing this 2.5 minute lag, they've got to fix that. So we'll see. We're waiting for that. So, again, all these stupid little things that happen. I mean, it's not stupid, having an internet system compromised at the county level is not a small thing. We're glad that services are back up. I'm still pretty nervous about it. But, all this stuff, it's just one more thing that, puts us, we're not behind yet, but it's only because you know, I get here at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, back on the revale trail, so we're, you know, we're not behind, and we're working very hard to not get behind. We still have hundreds of photos that are missing, you know, one thing at a time, I guess. And, last Saturday, we had our informational meetings. We had one here at the town hall. We had one at the, Civic Center and the Catholic Auditorium. And John Wallum, who's the regional director for Orbs, came up from White Plains. John's a great guy. He's a great asset to our region. We're so lucky to have him. And, you know, they do Orange and Westchester County. So the fact that, you know, he's willing to schlep up here to Delaware County means a lot to us. And it tells you the level of support that he, you know, wants to give to towns that want to undertake this project. So we so value both John and his team. We will set up another set of informational meetings as we get closer to finalizing values, and we will do that probably sometime in late January, early February. And we'll do it here and we'll do it in Grand Porch. And John will probably come back for that too. I promise him I'll find. And finally, we got the last two small claims decisions, and I'm so happy to say that our assessments were upheld, largely due to the two appraisals that we ordered from state certified licensed appraisers who validated our numbers. In fact, their numbers came in higher than ours. And so we feel that that was so worthwhile for us to do. And again, you know, the reason why we fight so hard when it comes to small claims, et cetera, is it's all about tax shift. And it's about paying one's own fair share, not more and not less. So we're really happy that that had a good outcome for the town at large.
Hey, anybody have anything for Stephanie? I know you've been through a lot, Stephanie, trying to get through this. I appreciate the help. It's been a tough road for you lately with all these computer issues the county's been having. This too shall pass eventually.
Yeah.
All right, building inspector. We had no report from our inspector for this month. However, I just wanted to comment that we are working on revised fees, which we would like to implement at the beginning of the year. I'll try to get something to you folks by December meeting so we can discuss, or before the December meeting. We also are hopefully have now found someone that can do our fire inspections for us. I met with him a couple weeks ago. He said he's agreed to do it. We're still talking about money and where we're going to go there, but he does seem to be interested in it. So we are moving forward with that. More to come on that. All right, Kirkside Park, Denise, what do you have?
I don't have much. We're pretty much done with our events, closed down the water and park. The Historic Preservation Committee met in October, and gas is getting shut next week. I think we're looking for next year already. That's it. That's nothing else really new.
Booking's pretty much the same for next year, or even more or less?
It seems
so far?
busy, already, like, it seems early that people are looking right now.
Good. It gets a lot of use.
We had a lot of inquiries about keeping it open all year, so, that's something that, you know, someone will have to decide eventually, I think.
The barn or the kitchen?
Both, the kitchen for sure, but even with the events, so.
Is there an issue with the kitchen?
It's really, well, the kitchen actually has heat. I want to say that there was radiant heat in the floors that was put in, but it's the water going to the building that will potentially freeze. So, and the barn doesn't heat, but that's easier.
So there is radiant heat in the floor in the kitchen. There's also radiant heat tubing in the bathrooms. That was done way back when for future potential year-round use. The problem is that the water line isn't deep enough. It's above the frost line. So,
Is that for both buildings going back
that's
there?
what it comes from the main all the way down the back of the the church from Spruce Street. It was never buried deep enough when they did the project. There's been several people who have said, if you're gonna open it year round, we'll volunteer.
Well,
Or-
let's, I don't know, I had a call, it was early October, I wanna say, from someone who owns the runs or some sort of business in the railroad. I can't remember the person's name.
Dawn?
But they wanted to use the kitchen and I said, well, that's very iffy. 'Cause it was, you know, end of October and generally we're closed by then. You just can't tell, you know? So I couldn't guarantee that. And he said, well, I'll come with my backhoe and take care of that.
No, I didn't-
Let me give you Alan's number.
That's
I
not, who-
spoke with him.
that's not to whom I was
Yeah, okay.
referring.
Yeah.
There, but you know, if you're gonna, it can be done easily. That, front room in the kitchen side of the barns, in the north barn, the old clubhouse could be a boiler room if you wanted to eat it. And as long as you got the water squared away, the kind of heaters that are in the kitchen could go in the pavilion side, and then you heat the radiant heat of the floor. But it's the water line
Yeah.
going to the building that's not.
I mean, that could be corrected. It's just a matter of. getting
It's just a matter of money, really,
Yeah.
like, so the people from the library wouldn't.
So, yeah.
Wouldn't much
No,
take
no,
that.
But you earn though from renting
right.
a
Yeah, I
kitchen,
mean,
and it's sprinkled too, right?
Yes.
It's not only rated, the kitchen was done with. So it's fully insulated, it's just this water line.
How deep is the water line there?
That I cannot tell you because it was before my.
Not deep
I'm not a
enough.
contractor. But Kirk said it runs along the sides of the building. but I'm not-
It does. So it comes in for actually from Spruce Street. Water and the sewer come in from Spruce Street. All the way across the back of the church and back of Kirkside to the Florence. So.
And how deep is below the frost line here, 5 feet?
4 feet, probably
4
3 or 4.
Because I know when they did my house on the new addition, they could only go down 4 feet, but they wrapped the pipes in, heat wires, so they
Minimum
wouldn't
4
freeze.
feet and
Yeah.
deeper is better, so. Well, I think it's something to consider possibly for
Yeah,
next
for
year's
sure.
budget and see if we can, or not for budget, but next year for possibly some grant money or something.
Yeah,
See what we
even
can
the kitchen use, because people, if they wanna list the kitchen as a true home base for their business, they really can't do that if it's not open all year round, you know?
There are several people who want to use it as a commissary.
So,
which
and the
is
person that we
really-
had in there all summer, she was great,
What about having some of the money from the bed tax money, something like that, like we did with the roof? That seems to
would be
be a
in
possibility.
March.
What's the deadline? When does their application? deadline?
March,
That might be something to shoot for.
evaluated product and small business development.
Because that would give some of the businesses that are looking to use it, it would give them the ability to,
That's why it was
Okay.
developed.
and there's a larger wish list than that for the kitchen though. Because, you know, freezer space, storage space for those sorts of things, that's gotta be developed more, it's a matter of.
now that we've got it up and going, now's the time to look at the next steps, and
Yeah.
what makes sense and where we go with it. So this is probably a good time to consider that stuff. Anything else for Denise? Parks related, okay? Margaret,
Okay,
we've got lots to talk about.
I got lots to talk about. I'm currently working on the TAP proposal, which is a transportation. It used to be TEP, Transportation Enhancement Program, but who knows why they changed the name. Anyway, it's for sidewalks in Roxbury and Grand Gorge. The preliminary application is due at the end of this month, with the full application being submitted in January. So this would be new sidewalk construction, sidewalk replacement, bike lanes, things like that. It's a fair of an application, but we'll get through it. I still have to get Billy out with his little roller thing so I can measure the lineal feet.
I have one if you need to borrow it.
Yeah, well, why don't you go measure for me?
That goes.
We did present a group of dedicated community members went to Binghamton on Tuesday and presented our downtown revitalization initiative. This again is for both Grand Gorge and Roxbury. I can tell you, we left nothing on the table. They got everything we had. The feedback that I received was that the presentation was clever and engaging and awesome. And more feedback came in later in, yesterday afternoon saying that the two other, our competitors, which were Elmira and Binghamton, that the panel felt like they heard from politicians in those two presentations, but they really heard from community remarks. And I think that resonated with the regional council, but we won't know if it worked or not until probably late December, January, maybe February. They are trying to announce earlier this year than last year. So cross your fingers, cross your toes, everything you can do. Any questions on that? Any questions on the TAP?
When should we hear something from that?
I just said, late December, January, February, maybe March.
Say definite.
Who knows? You know, they're trying to get it all squared away earlier, because what happened when they announced late last year, they're still now getting last year's DRIs and New York Forwards moving because it was such a late announcement. So they really want to make sure that they can get the 24s announced.
So there were only 3 entities that submitted applications.
That's correct, for the downtown revitalization.
And they, how many do they award?
One. For the New York Forward, there were 8 or 9 applications submitted, which are about 10 less than last year. And like I said, well, I have no clue when they're going to announce. I did receive an award letter today for Kirkside from the New York Main Street program for construction for $500,000. I think we're going to be putting a shovel in the ground this spring. So,
what does that do, repair or addition?
no, it's to implement the entire plan that we've been working on for 40 years.
Oh,
Which just happens. Yeah. So I see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people from the comprehensive planning committee here, so 6. That's almost a majority. And you guys jump in if I've missed anything. So we've been working with Nan, organizing and holding focus groups based on different categories, which range from large business, senior citizens, arts and culture, 20 and 30 somethings, ag and forestry, health and safety, small business, education, and recreation. So the committee has appointed a facilitator for those and a note taker, and really worked very hard to make sure there was a good representation across a broad brushstroke of the community. That's what's really important about a comprehensive plan. And Nan was allocated to do 6 interviews, and there was we decided that the town board and Diane would be the most, we as a group would be the most valuable. There was another name that was put into a senior focus group on our meeting on Zoom. Consensus was reached. After that, a committee member said, I think she should be interviewed. And now I see on the agenda, there's an email in your inbox about Grand Gorge not being represented fairly. There is nothing further than the truth. That is so far from the truth, because we are going above and beyond to make sure every face in the community has a voice in this outreach. It also is not the only time they're going to get to speak. This is just one step along the road to get everybody's input for this comprehensive plan. So that after the interviews and the focus group, then there'll be public engagement sessions, there'll be surveys mailed, there'll be all kinds of things to ensure that we've gotten the feedback we need to put a document together that's going to be used for the future of the town as a whole. That being said, Nan also emailed me today. She talked to Spencer at County Mapping, and Spencer's been really wonderful about what she needs and is on it immediately. So, is anyone from the comp plan want to add to what I said?
I just had one thing to add to that. I did get a map from Spencer that I had asked him to put together a while ago. It's in PDF form, but it can be blown up bigger, however you want to do it. It's a map that shows, to give you an idea of what properties, it shows first off, how much land in the community is owned by the city and how much is owned by the state. And then the second thing that's on it is what our steep slopes are, which means future development is very difficult on anything over a 15% grade. That's New York City's requirement for a septic. In most cases, it needs to be under 15% grade. So I would like to get that printed so that the committee has that to work with.
Just send it to Nan.
It comes,
Because
gives you an idea more of where we actually sit as far as future development goes, based on what has already been developed and what is potentially available to be developed. That's was the reason for putting this together. So
I'm sure Nan will use it. She's really good about making sure all the maps represent all of these little factors of the composition of our township.
I can also say that on the younger adult committee, as I like to call them, the 20s and 30s, when we have seen one of our committee members or one of our participants from Grand Gorge not be able to participate, we've reached out to that person to make recommendation of other Grand Gorge people to recommend and make sure that there is representation.
And I can also say I have the list of all the focus groups with me now. And I can say it's very balanced with, as a matter of fact, some of the groups have more representation in Grand Gorge than in Roxbury or Denver. And so it's important to know that we as a group on a Zoom came to this decision, and then a member of the committee decided to move the goalpost after the meeting instead of engaging in that conversation in a meeting session, which would have been more appropriate in my mind.
okay, anything else on the comp plan while we're on that? Renee, you had submitted the letter. Why don't you?
Oh, no, actually, I wasn't going to talk about that. I just wanted to say how beautiful Roxbury is looking.
Thank you.
The post office, our new food store, the liquor store, and it's from the grant.
Right. And
So
that's what's going to the library too. When you said, I don't know what's happening, that's not true. You can allocate some New York Main Street money.
oh, good.
So
When do we find out about this?
we have the money. You've got to get the money for your
Right.
share. Okay.
Oh, hey, I would like to clarify something else. When I was on Zoom, I couldn't see my microphone anymore. I had closed it so that I wouldn't make any noise. So I couldn't do it that day. So that's the reason.
But again, if we continue to move the goalposts after the committee comes to a consensus, we'll never get to the end of this process. Right? So that's all I have to say. But I can assure anyone that there's been great representation from Grand Gorge, and we'll continue to do that kind of outreach. Grand Gorge was also very participatory in the DRI. So, let's just make sure that that's continues.
One thing I'd like to say, I know I've gotten calls from a few different people on the committee directly concerning the concerns you've had. Mike is our liaison for the board with the committee. So I'd prefer that if you can do it, send any comments, questions you have to Mike first. I'm certainly willing to talk with anybody, but I think it's better. Mike is much closer to the day-to-day operations of how this committee is going because he's been directly involved with it.
What's your email address?
I'd rather see,
Councilman Hines at roxburynewyork.com,
I'd rather see him be involved in any questions that I get, so that I.
which is appropriate.
Yes.
The board.
The one question I did have though is I
I'm
know
more than
in
willing
the
to
committee,
answer.
we talked about trying to get all the focus groups done by Thanksgiving. Are we on track? Because I've only known that the one group I've been in.
Pretty much. There's a couple going on next week, I know, and this week.
Friday, there's one happening
Sunday, and there's one happening the following Thursday.
Tuesday.
Okay, so
March
I'm not
business
part, but
is
those are the
Tuesday.
three that
I
in
did,
addition to
well,
one I done, so.
Mine's definitely got, yeah, thanks.
but for the most part, we're close to being on track, and it's a heavy lift, you know? So getting it coordinated and getting people to participate and finding a day and time that works and things like that. So, and I've been in the weeds literally, so.
Yeah, I think it's about being respectful for the people that were asking. It's a busy time of year, so just coordinating and being respectful of everybody else's schedule.
And even when people cannot attend, like, so for instance, the small business group, we have actually 6 businesses that we've reached out to in Grand Gorge, and unfortunately, a lot of them can't attend. We still send them the questionnaire so they can answer those, and those will get incorporated into the final comments around that sort of focus group. So we're trying to make every accommodation.
Does the board have any, like official oversight or mediation authority for the steering committee, or is this, I mean, is this the way we should address this sort of thing? for our
Well,
committee?
at the end of the day, the comprehensive plan will be decided by the board.
Right,
We will make the final decision on how it's written and what it is.
for the actual plan, but the
For the
process
actual
involved
plan.
with things in the
The
way.
process
we have
involved
internal issues, is this the way we're supposed to?
Right. Really, the steering committee, and we've appointed Mike as our liaison on the board to be directly involved with this, and that way it keeps everybody consistent. I'm certainly willing to take a phone call from anybody, as I always have been. But it's easier for me as well if it goes through Mike first. So he's aware of what the concerns or problems are or whatever. And he and I can discuss it, or I can talk directly with you if you don't feel comfortable talking with him, but it's just more efficient to do it that way.
And that's unofficially sort of in a friendly capacity, or is there a,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay, but there's no official sort of like,
No.
complaints will come to you, you hand out a ruling or some sort?
No. When this is all finalized, Nan, who is hired to do this, will develop a draft and we will review that as a board along with everyone else.
So, one more thing.
Quick.
So,
Running out of breath.
Safety Day, December 9th, social event of the season, deck the halls at Kirkside. It's official. And it's gonna be
December
some pretty stiff competition this year, that's all I have to say. What is it? Bring it on. Yeah, players are running their mouths.
That's the same weekend as the fire department is doing their Santa parade.
I don't know, I'm not in the fire department. But
You
it was
haven't
last
heard.
year, it was last year.
Okay, that may not have. Okay, I you know better than I do.
Macker, is that the same weekend? Last year we did it
I
on the
think
10th.
that's, I think that's the date that I heard.
Uh,
I don't know, because it's all up in the air right now. We haven't really, we set a date, but I don't know what it is.
Well, we gotta get snowflakes up too.
There's no lake queen.
Snowflake, leave me alone.
Okay, we gotta move on. We gotta get through this, folks.
I think.
Any questions? Okay.
All right, everybody's good. We're gonna move on. Just a couple things under old business to talk about. I did already speak about the fire inspector. We do have some issues to discuss in executive session after this, concerning highway contract and some personnel issues. Building fees I already discussed. Just a quick update on the tower. We did receive comments back from Verizon based on the draft lease. I sent that off to our attorney for review. We are getting close. I think we've pretty much got a final agreement, and once I get the final word back from our attorney, I will forward it to all you guys for review. And then we'll go forward with it. I have discussed it with the president of the homeowners association, and he says his board is all pretty much in support of it, even though it is a lease with the town. Seems that everybody up there agrees that better self-service is very important, so that's where we're at. The CDBG audit recommendations, we have to make a decision on what we're gonna do with them. Fair housing law. I have graciously agreed as town supervisor to be the town's fair housing officer. So
I'll second that.
if everybody's in agreement with that, I will take on that role. If you would like to make a motion to appoint me as fair housing officer, I'd be happy to.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
With no pay.
Yeah, that doesn't help the salary much, but still do it. As far as the law goes, I'll have to get together with Kristen and find out what changes, if any, are needed to go through that.
Could you tell us what that entails?
Well, the way Diane, you can probably explain it better than I can, but it basically is the state is requiring that every community have a fair housing officer, which reviews things like affordable housing and stuff like that, but also it's about discrimination. It becomes a responsibility of the fair housing officer to make sure that within town business and within anything else as far as housing, which is totally illegal, there's no discrimination happening at all. And
Most of the grants require it, not CDBG grants that
Yes.
require it.
yeah. So it's a requirement for many of our grant applications that we've done, that we have a fair housing officer and that we have a fair housing law in place. So we have a draft law and we'll finalize that and vote on that.
Well, we have one in place since 2001.
Right, but we have to review it, I guess, and
Hasn't been
update it,
updated.
and it needs to be updated, yeah. So we'll do that. Okay, moving on, you've gotten some letters from the board. Renee sent us a few. We have one from Jeannie Palmer concerning the water account adjustment. I'm not sure what that's all about. Diane, I didn't discuss that one with you.
I think Chris sent
Yeah, he still.
everybody
a
an
letter.
email that he doesn't see anything wrong with the meter.
Okay. And this Penske Law Group, they are looking for support from towns for emergency medical services of the new Headwaters ambulance, which is stationed in Stamford and Harpersfield. They are looking to do a certificate of need for Stamford and Courtright and Harpersfield. They're asking for our support with a letter. I have no problem with doing that letter, but the board should give me permission to write that or approve it. So if somebody can do that, I would appreciate that.
I'll make a motion to do it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do we have any other additional discussion from residents that we need to talk about? I do want to keep this brief because we have to have an executive session. It's going to take a little while. So go ahead, Robin.
Okay, I just wanted to, I don't know if you're gonna vote on the budget tonight, but you know, we did have the preliminary hearing earlier today. And I was wondering if it was possible, just as a sort of a matter of course, to leave a little time between the public hearings and the vote, just so that you guys get to consider the things that the residents are saying, react to it, respond to it. So in other words, you don't hear it that day and then vote. So I don't know if that creates difficulty, but it seems like it should be set up with time in between for you guys to consider what the residents are telling you. That's it.
It's reasonable.
Yep.
Make a motion.
Okay, no more comments from anybody? We're all good? Okay. As I said, we will be a little while in executive session. Do I have a second? All in favor?
For what?
One is for an employee issue, and Diane, I'd like to ask that you come in because you understand this better than I do. It's only an employee insurance issue. Come in for a few minutes. Help us explain that. And then we also have a contractual issue. Contractual issue that I'd like to discuss. with the board.
Organizations will take over.
We are now in executive session. Sorry,
It needs to be next week, I think.
has to be next week.
Right, Diana, is it the 15th or the 20th? The county.
Haven't done it.
been so long.
Yeah, I think it's the 20th, but we'll check.
Okay.
Yeah, there is definitely a deadline and
We were
it's.
thinking to wait until after the Thanksgiving holiday, but we can do it for that.
Yeah.
We find out when it is. We just have some questions that we want to discuss with the
Yep.
departments.
Can we just make a date now?
Yeah.
You can set a date.
Let's set a date.
Next week if possible. Sooner the better.
You just calm down, Carol.
I'm good any day but Monday next week. Tuesday at 4 o'clock
I have a
approximately.
special meeting, I've gotta get it in the paper,
What do you mean, what,
which that won't be till Friday.
what do you mean, 4 days?
You can't get it in the paper tomorrow.
It was already published, now,
Yep.
the papers, today.
You're right.
Let me see if I can find it.
Said it had to be the 20th.
I think so. I'm looking it up. I'm just making sure.
Paper tomorrow. Come back to this.
Yeah, come back to it.
Okay, we'll table that for now. We need to approve unpaid water amounts to go to the Roxbury, Denver and Grand Gorge water systems on the 2024 tax bill. I need a resolution for that.
I'll make that motion.
A second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Roxbury sewer charges to go to the January tax bill. Need a resolution.
I'll make that.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we need a resolution to approve the shared services agreement for the New York State DOT with our highway for 4 years.
Make that motion.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we need to hire a justice court clerk. They had 2 interviews or 2 applications. right?
Four.
Or
We have 4,
have they been
and
interviewed?
Rich Stein has gone over them, and I just saw, Judge Vocal last night, and she's gonna come in probably next week to go over them.
Okay, so we'll table that until next month.
Yeah, I talked to her last night. She said she hadn't met. You know, look at them.
Okay. The agreement with Gilboa School for Civic Center as a secondary evacuation site for emergencies. Resolution for that.
I make them.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I believe the next one, the meters for the polls, is being tabled at this point. I think Mark was looking into what they wanted to do financially to do that. It turned out to be a much bigger expense than anybody realized. So,
There's bowls in Grand Gorge, right?
well, some were Grand Gorge, some were Roxbury.
Not just Roxbury.
I thought there was a couple up in Grand Gorge too that were additions. Or was it all just
No,
Roxbury?
it's just
County
Roxbury
41
where they're
or
putting snowflakes.
yeah, down
41.
on 41 because there was no, any place where there's not a pole or where there's not an existing lighting system there. NYSEG's requirement now is that you have to put a separate service in for each light. You can't put them tied together like they've always done.
We're gonna put lights down my street too.
Sure.
I want some snowflake.
We got a quote, I think it was roughly around $2,000 per pole to put in the meters.
I really don't think we need them down for.
Not to mention
I think when I went over the list, there was 7.
7, and not to mention it would be 7 new electric accounts would have to be put in place because you can't put them on together on an account. And there's a minimum charge on each of those electric accounts for about, what is it, $30 a month or
And these
something?
are on 41, like you say.
Yeah, they wanted to extend down 41.
Okay.
The whatever group did the snowflakes, they bought enough snowflakes to go
Where did that
on
go?
these other poles. So,
We're just snowflake queen.
but again, I think we should table this at this point until we have more
That's
information.
even through the summer?
Yeah. well,
No,
once you
you,
start-
no, you can, no.
Well, you can
It's
terminate it,
nice
though.
if you can go on a seasonal plan.
Yeah.
And you would tell them when you want it, what months you want it on, and when it would be off, and the months that it's off, you don't pay the monthly fee.
But you're still talking a pretty big number to put in on meter on every single pole. So
And then you'd have to write 7.
I know Peg's not here, but when I discussed it with her, she said at this point, let's hold tight, so.
All right, so table that.
Okay, we need a resolution for. Letter of support.
We did that.
Okay, we did do that.
That was from the pink letter.
And we do need to reapprove a retirement time resolution that we did previously because there was an error in it, I guess.
Because I didn't put the day in the.
But now we have to do a new resolution. So
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Oh, well,
Okay, we need to transfer 100,000 from the general fund to the highway fund to cover bills in the amount to be reimbursed by CHIPS once they are received, which I believe is December, right?
It's December 20th around, and it's about 410,000.
But until then, we.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, and pre-approval projects, pre-approval invoice that we received. Need a motion to approve that.
I'll make that.
In a second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Beth, where are we at?
The 20th,
It has to be done by the 20th.
which is a Monday.
And what if it isn't done by the 20th?
Get your hand slapped. No, the county needs it to do the tax bill stuff, so they need it as soon as possible.
Oh, well, there's a key word, as soon as possible. Their deadline is on the 20th, right?
Well,
And what happens
The
if,
state deadline is the 20th. I'm assuming the
state.
county would be the 21st, but I don't know.
wait a minute,
we only received the county budget yesterday.
And I think the county is due in early December. I'm thinking.
State is the 20th, so you could do it on the 20th, on Monday. Or the 25th.
let's set it for the 20th.
20th. Monday. It's just Monday, no.
Oh,
Next
Week
Monday.
from Monday.
that gives Diane.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I can get the notice in for next week on Friday.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Then as long as it's on the website. and posted.
So if we set it for the 20th, or do you want to say 4 PM? Is that more than me?
Good with me.
You want that under the, motion you already made to table it?
What's that? Yes.
We did the one to override the tax.
Yep. Okay, so we're doing a special meeting on November 20th at 4 PM. To discuss the budget. I would recommend that the highway committee or whatever get together possibly with the highway department prior to that. And go through this a little bit with them, try to come up with a resolution so that when we go have the meeting, we can discuss it further. Get it resolved. Do that. And the committee is. You and I, you're you and Ed, right? And Mike, yeah. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Other thing is we did receive the scenic byway report. Was distributed to everybody during the byway project that we've been involved with. Water project costs have been distributed. And training status has been distributed. There's still quite a few people on that list that haven't done their harassment or violence prevention yet. So. Is there anything else to come before the board before we pay the bills?
We're good, let's pay the bills.
Right, have a resolution to pay the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Well, I guess we have a resolution to go home. Second. All in favor of it, going home.